Okay, well, thank you guys for being here this afternoon. I know that 3 o'clock on a Monday is not always the best time, so thank you guys for being here. If anyone does ask, I'll try to have this recording up by tomorrow morning, and I'll send out a big email to everyone with the link and all of the information on how to access the recording and my PowerPoint that I'm using. So you'll have all the information. Okay, so we're going to start off with the message on my screen is going to be kind of our mantra for this year moving forward. And, you know, we keep hearing about our new normal and going back to normal. Well, at Oklahoma DECA, we're going to keep striving to be better. That's what we were doing in March. That's what we're going to do this year, is we're going to get back to being better. And I think we have a lot of things in place for this year that are going to help us accomplish that goal, give a lot of opportunities to your members and to you as an advisor, and really make your membership dollars matter this year. So let's get started with our presentation. Okay, and just as a reminder, if anyone is just now coming in, we are recording. And if you have not signed into the chat, go ahead and do that. Okay, so something before we do get started, I want you guys to always know that I am here to answer any and all questions that you have, especially during conference season. It doesn't really matter what hour of the day you have those questions. So let me know if you do have any questions about anything at all this year. It could be chapter planning, it could be fall leadership conference, CDC, it could be a question that you have about membership, whatever you need. Don't hesitate to either email or call me. I typically try to keep a 24 hours or less response time. So just make sure that you're not stressing out something that you don't need to be stressing about if I can help you. And don't hesitate to reach out. Before we get started, I do want to introduce you to a very special guest that is with us today, and that is our state president, La Brea Owens. She's on our call. La Brea, if you want to wave or something. So thank you, La Brea, for popping in. She said she wanted to see all of the advisors today. It's an opportunity that she wouldn't have gotten if we were in person. So something positive about being virtual that she got to pop into our call today. Thank you, La Brea, for being here this afternoon. Okay. So that was perfect, because now I get to introduce you to our wonderful state officer team, and I have to brag on them because they have taken the challenge of being virtual, of multiple events being canceled or turned into virtual events, and they have risen to the occasion with positivity and just a ton of creativity and ideas. I'm so proud of these girls. So let me introduce those to you. We have our Vice President of Hospitality, Ashana Patel from Ponca City. We have Katie Ship, who is from Edmond North High School, and she is our Vice President of Marketing. We have Daisy Aguilar, our Vice President of Finance from Putnam City High School. We have Grace Key, and she is our Vice President of Career Development. She is from Norman North High School. Another Norman North High School member is Mackenzie Bellino, and she is our Vice President of Leadership. And then, of course, we have La Brea Owens, our returning officer and state president this year from Edmond Santa Fe High School. So again, I couldn't be more proud of these ladies. They have done a phenomenal job this year. And I know that they have some amazing things planned for you and your students as we continue out through the school year. So some of the things that they have done this year, they went through a virtual Career Tech University, which is the training program for state officers. We were all a little bit nervous about how that would go. It was kind of our first virtual conference experience, and it was amazing. They connected even virtually. I know for a while they were talking very regularly on Zoom and phone calls and became a very close-knit officer team. So in a way, this has been a really special time for them. They also were able to attend the virtual Emerging Leader Summit, something that we're not typically able to send our officers to due to travel costs and things like that. But because there was no travel involved this year, we were able to send them to DECA's Emerging Leader Summit. You can read about their experiences on the DECA website. They've each published a blog post about that, and I know that they thoroughly enjoyed that experience. And then just lots of summer prep. They officers typically kind of get the summer off after CTU. They take a little bit of a break. These officers went through training all of June, and they haven't really taken a break, I don't think. So they have been planning all year, or all summer long for the year, and we have some wonderful things planned for your students. Okay. Okay, so some of our numbers from this past year, Oklahoma DECA had 1,806 members last year. This year, we are hoping to maintain. We know that we may lose some members, but we're prepared for that, and we're going to try to recruit as many members as possible. And the members that we do have, make sure that they are engaged the whole year long. We had 36 chapters last year, and we are the 31st largest state in the DECA nation, or in DECA world, I guess. So we're small, but we're mighty. And what I love about Oklahoma DECA is that it truly is a family experience, and that everyone is so close. And I'm so incredibly proud of what we did last year, and I know we're going to do great things this next year. This year's membership theme from DECA Inc. is Next Level. So you'll be seeing this logo all over the place. It'll be on your DECA guides and things like that. So this is their membership theme for the year. Dues. We are not changing any dues this year. So DECA Inc. dues will remain at $8. Our state dues will remain at $20. We'll still have the affiliation fee that you can use if you are a funded high school program. And that is $400 of your program fees that can be used to pay for 20 memberships. International and state dues are sent directly to DECA Inc. And here is the registration link. If you need to be added to the registration system, just send me an email and remind me to add you to that system, and we'll get it done this week. Okay, so throughout the presentation today, you'll see a slide like this pop up. And after our meeting today, I'm going to send out a survey link about some of the things that we need to make some decisions about. We can talk about them during our call today, and then if you want to collect your thoughts and collect all the discussion points and things like that, you'll have a chance to fill out the survey. I encourage you all to do so because we have some important things we need to make decisions about. And this will also allow people time to watch the recording and then to also fill out the survey. So we'll make this deadline probably next week or so because a lot of it is pertinent information. One of the first things is that I have the ability to turn on an individual member pay by credit card feature on the registration site, and that's provided by DECA Inc. It only applies to state and national dues. They would not be able to pay for your chapter dues on the DLG site, and there's a processing fee of 3%. So I would love to have some discussion right now if anyone has questions about that, or if you do want to raise some points, and then you will get to vote as an advisor on this if you want me to turn it on or not. It's completely optional, and so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and answer questions about it as well.
Is this different than when they, I'm sorry, Jamie from Norman North, is this different from when they, or like if I go and register a new member online after I've submitted the big bulk of my membership, I may still have 3 or 4, 5 stragglers. Is this different from what I can already do on the National DECA website under membership?
That I don't know because I haven't seen that side of it. The way that they pitched it to us last week at CAM was that this was a new feature to accommodate people or students who are learning virtually, and you may not want to collect money from them to send in for your invoice. So what I was told was that this would allow the student to go in, log in as themselves, and pay this by themselves with their credit card, their parents' credit card, all of that. The downside being that we cannot attach your chapter fees to that.
Yeah, I agree, because we make ours more than the $20, but that includes their local DECA t-shirt for our chapter, and they pay a larger sum than the 20.
Right, and the other thing about this is that you as an advisor, if they're your member, if they don't pay and you're thinking that your chapter is all going to pay themselves, you would still be responsible for that payment getting sent to DECA. So, but it is to accommodate, especially there's a lot of schools, especially across the nation, that are completely virtual for a fairly long period of time. So it's to help accommodate that. And it was a big discussion point about chapter dues and things like that on our calls. So, but I am happy to turn that on. If I turn it on, it's not to say that your chapter has to utilize it. It would just be an option. So I'll include that in the survey and you guys can let me know your thoughts on that. I'll make sure there's a comment box and everything too so that we can take in all the different accounts.
How do we know if they paid you?
I believe that it will show up in your chapter registration. You'll get to see those invoices because they're associated with your chapter. Are there any other questions on this or discussion points? Okay, so just be all of my questions like this will be in one survey and you'll get the link when I send out the link for the recording as well, just to let the rest of the people who aren't on the call have the opportunity to answer those questions as well. Okay, so something that everyone has been wondering about is our conferences this year. So here's our 2020-2021 conference lineup. FLC will be October 5th and it will be virtual. I'll go into that more in a few moments. CDC, that is something that we're going to get to have a discussion about today. So we're going to be deciding the location, which will then decide the date. So we'll have a discussion about that. ICDC is currently scheduled to be in Anaheim, California from April 24th to April 27th, 2021. And we'll talk more about that, but I will let you know that at CAM, DECA Inc. let us know that they are moving forward with planning both an on-site conference and a virtual option. So I know that's something that everyone has been worried about. Okay, so let's talk about FLC 2020, and I promise you that it's going to be an experience like nothing before. And we have partnered with some really great partners to make sure that we're bringing your students a wonderful opportunity and experience that they can attend and be passionate about serving DECA throughout the year because of their attendance of this. Before I get into the details of conference though, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, and I have received this morning the FLC promo video. So you all will be some of the first to see this video. And so LaBrea, you're lucky you joined the call. I know the officers haven't even seen it. So I'm going to share that video with you all. So we are very excited that we are working with Team Tri this year, and they do a lot of work with DECA. And so they are excited to roll out a lot of our content this year. The officers came up with this idea with Oklahoma BPA. After attending CTU, they were able to go through a leadership style training that was focused on a test that they took to determine how they lead. And it's called their leadership voice. And so our students are going to be able to take that same leadership test and attend workshops that are specific to their style of leadership. And they're also going to get to interact with the officers, and the officers are presenting their normal types of workshops as well. So it's a really individualized experience that I think our students are really going to love. So I'm going to go back to sharing my presentation. Get everything situated. Okay, so Again, we're partnering with Tri Leadership. Factor 110 is going to be doing all of our production behind the scenes filming and things like that of the officers of general session, our keynote. That way we don't have to worry about day of technical problems and things like that. And we want to make sure that we're giving you the highest quality conference that we can. And it was very important to us from the very beginning that this conference was not just something that the students sat in front of their computers doing. It was an experience that they got to really enjoy, that really pumped them up for the year so that they're ready to serve DECA and have a fantastic year as a DECA member. We're also partnering with Eskimo Joe's promotional products, and I'll go into more of what they're doing in just a minute. So FLC registration is going to be $30 this year, and we're making that money stretch as far as we can. So not only is it covering the behind the scenes filming, the Zoom rooms, the content, the tests, all of that, but this is what your students are going to get for their registration individually. Each student is going to get an individual login credential for training and conference site. So they're going to get to log in, they're going to get to have access to everything that we produce for the conference specifically. They're also going to get extended access to the training site and resources. So what we're looking at doing is having a 2-week window where your officers or any attendees actually can access all the leadership workshop videos that is on this training site. And it's like 800 hours of leadership videos. It also has resources for download. And what Team Tri was telling me that was that when they do this, they'll release it, and advisors, they'll look on the back end, and the advisors don't watch the leadership workshop videos. They actually just go to the download section and they download every single resource they can get their hands on. So that is going to be available to you. For 2 weeks, you're going to get that experience. So it's not just a one-day thing that your students have to do. They'll be able to access it for an extended period of time. They're also going to get that personal leadership style test, which is going to let them know what their leadership voice is. And then their whole FLC experience is going to be built off of what their test says about them, so that they can then go and lead in the best way possible. They'll get access to the leadership workshop just like they would at an on-site FLC, and they'll also have access to the recordings afterwards. They're going to be getting a t-shirt. We are using the same t-shirts that we did last year. I know that everyone really loved those. They'll get a branded Oklahoma DECA face mask. And one thing that when I was asking students what they really needed for their FLC money, they needed a lanyard because they collect those at every conference. So this year they're going to be getting a face mask lanyard that will be branded with the FLC logo, as well as the DECA logo. We'll also be doing a conference workbook, which will serve kind of like our conference program has in the past, but it will be more interactive with spaces for them to write in and interact with the conference itself. They'll also be getting a branded pin, and then something that the officers really pushed for to be in their registration kits was a package of candy so that they could enjoy the conference just like they would in person. So that is what they're getting in their registration kits. I'm going to go over some important dates in just a few slides, but if you register by the September 10th date, you will be guaranteed to get your kit before FLC, and we'll be getting those to you the week prior to FLC. Okay, so use this conference as a recruitment tool. We are going to make sure that attendees do not have to be DECA members. You can use this for students who are interested and might just want maybe just a little bit interested in DECA, but they're not quite sure, why would I join DECA this year? If you can convince them to get to the conference, I think we can convince them to be members as well. So use this conference as a recruitment tool for your chapter. We also, because we're virtual, we don't have a limit on how many students you can bring to the conference. So, and Team Tri has assured me that if we max out their Zoom rooms, that they'll get more Zoom rooms. So we have plenty of space. Bring as many students as you want, however many you want to handle virtually that day. And then also remember that we are able to reach students that we maybe haven't been able to reach in the past, because this is a one-fee conference. They're going to pay the registration fee, but then they don't have to worry about going out to eat for lunch or travel costs or hotel costs. So this is a conference that I think we can reach more students with, depending on how we promote it. We're also offering an incentive this year. The DECA chapter with the most student FLC registrations is going to get a personal virtual chapter visit from the entire state officer team. And we will make sure that that is made to reflect what your chapter needs. So if it's a chapter activity, if it's a Q&A with the officer team, if it's a ceremony or an installation of some sort, we will make sure that this visit fits the needs of your chapter and that you're getting the most out of this incentive. So that's something that we're offering if you have the most student FLC registrations. Okay, some important dates. Registration with a guaranteed registration kit will close on the September 9th, or I'm sorry, September 10th. Don't want to cut a day out for you. We will, however, accept registration until the Friday before the conference, which is October 2nd. So I can't guarantee a kit for those registrations though. And if we can, we'll place another order and they can get those kits afterwards. There is an additional cost if you register after the 10th, just so that we can replenish those kits. But I cannot guarantee them to be delivered to you before the conference if you do not register before September 10th. Pin designs will be due on the 9th, or I'm sorry, September 28th. We'll be voting on those just like we typically would at FLC. So encourage your students to be doing that so that we can trade those at ICDC. Okay, so how do you promote this conference? And you know, I'm giving you a very limited amount of time to get students registered. I know that. I know it's going to be really tough, especially if your school is virtual or if you're starting a little bit later in the year. You don't have a ton of time. So the biggest thing, and the thing that I think the officers would like to highlight, is the DECA swag that they're going to get. They're going to get so many branded items, and they're quality items. They're items they can use that I think they'll get really excited about. It's also co-curricular, so remember that. We have the one fee. We're not worried about hotel and travel costs. You're going to have access to those resources for about a 2-week time period. So if you wanted to partake in 4 hours of leadership workshops or 400 hours of leadership workshops, you have that accessibility, and it's accessible 24 hours a day. It's just a browser online. And then it's very individualized for your student and what they need, and quality. Then we have partnered with quality companies in Oklahoma, Factor 110, Try Leadership, so that we can provide the best experience and best virtual conference that we can. And we know that it's not a replacement for an in-person conference, because nothing is. But we know that what we're going to give you all is it's a phenomenal substitute. Okay, so let's answer questions about FLC. I know you guys may have some, so you can either type them into the chat, I'm looking at that, or you can just speak up and I can answer them verbally. Does anybody have questions?
Okay, so I need to get this in my mind. Okay, it's virtual, and it is going to be that day. So, like, the students are going to be home, or like I need to have them in my classroom, or how?
This is going to depend on school to school, because as we know, everyone's doing something different this year, and we wanted to make something that would work for everyone. So if you have a school that's completely virtual for the first 9 weeks, obviously that's kind of easy. Your students will be at home, they're going to be doing their thing. If you have a school, if your students are all in school or on an A/B schedule, you may have to work with where they are or get them all on one device. We're going to have to get creative with devices and things like that. If you will let me know what your school is doing as far as, where they'll be on October 5th, if you're going to be at home or all virtual, as best as you know, because I know it can change tomorrow. Let me know and I can help you brainstorm some ideas. I've talked to several advisors and we kind of thought about different scenarios. One advisor said she could probably get the gym and they could all have their own devices and they could be socially distanced and watching it together on headphones and that kind of thing. So, or if you're at home, you can do it by yourself at home. We'll make it work and I can help you come up with ideas. The conference is going to be from 9 to 3. That day is the scheduled content, but then also we'll have the recordings and then they have the 2 weeks access of extra things as well. So, but I'm happy to help you come up with some plans based on your school policies, what might be available to you, and that kind of thing.
Is there
Well, we're going to school, and you know, maybe I don't know. I'll have to think that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help you think about those ideas. You know, if there's a library that you could use, or you know, things like that. The way that it's going to work best is that each student has their own device. That way, they can be individual working through their conference, and you know, a set of headphones so that they're not bothering others. And I think, you know, we can roll with this. You just need space, device, and a way to listen. So, any other questions? Yes, no problem. So please email me so I can help you figure that out. Okay, so I'm seeing a question, is the schedule built for this event? So it will be from 9 to 3 is the day of schedule. And I'm going to be finalizing the FLC website on the DECA website this week. So you'll get a breakdown of the entire schedule. Content will be rolling out as Team Tri gives that to us. So it's a little bit different from year to year. Typically I plan all the workshops. This year because we're so heavily relying on content from the leadership voices, Team Tri is helping us a lot with that content. So we'll be putting that on the website as we have it and as it's ready so that you can promote it to your students. Jana, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Well, and I was also wondering, is there a lunch break built in?
There are plenty of breaks. So what we found at CTU was that Team Tri is amazing they've been virtual for several years, just in their work environment. So they know when they need breaks and that kind of thing, and they'll make it, you know, maybe one break is just a complete break where you can step away and go be somewhere for 10 minutes and then come back. Or, you know, you may have an hour-long break where you have an assignment on that break as well, you know, a scavenger hunt, or I know, I think at ELS they had them, you know, go make your bed or something like that. So they're wonders at working in breaks. Will make sure that no one is getting Zoom fatigue, going to be interactive. It's not just going to be a whole day of staring at your computer.
Great, that really answered my question. Yeah, need the bio breaks in there.
Yes, yeah, and they'll be good ones.
I have a question for everyone. Do you pay for the students, or do you make the students pay their own way, or at least partially?
Our school pays for our students.
I would pay partially. If they don't have some skin in the game, they may not show up.
That's what I've learned.
And something that came up during our BPA call earlier today was the fact that, are we going to be able to track attendance if your students are virtual? And so we will be taking attendance as best as we can, and we can look at the best ways to provide you reports on that kind of thing of, you know, did they attend this workshop? Were they here? Were they there? That kind of thing. Now, we can't guarantee that if their video's turned off, they're still in front of their computer or anything like that, but we're going to look at ways on how to make sure that you know where they are and they're actually doing what they've said they're going to do.
What's the attendance expectation for us as advisors?
So that's going to be completely up to you. It's going to be what you make it, obviously. So I'll have some sessions for you all. You're welcome to also attend the leadership style trainings. If you register, you're going to get a password to take the test as well. I'll be completely honest, when the officers went to CTU, I had a lot of work planned out that I was going to do while I was just sitting on those calls. And I ended up actually participating in a lot of the sessions. It was really beneficial. It was neat to be able to know that about my leadership style, and then we use it in our meetings and things like that. You know, how to interact with other leadership styles. So it's something that you could use with your chapters, and it's a really good bonding experience. But I'll also have advisor discussions and updates and things worked in. You'll also have access to those resources for that period of time. Any other questions? Okay, well, if you think of any, or if any come up, you know, the thing about this is we've never really done it before. So if you think of a problem that you may have, or if you have a question, please don't hesitate to email it to me. Not only do I want to answer it, but it may be something we haven't thought about. And so if we can address it before the conference, that would be great. So don't hesitate to ask your questions, email or call me with them, and I will be happy to answer them or figure out a way to fix the problem. Okay, so CDC 2021, we do have some things to decide, and that is basically the location and the dates, the really important stuff. And it all kind of boils down to money. So let's just get into it. If you have questions, let me know. And again, you'll get a survey link at the end after we've had a chance to discuss and things like that, so that you can voice your opinion and be heard. Okay, so what we're really considering is Midwest City, the Sheraton Reed Conference Center in the Hudiburg Theater, where we have been, or in Owasso at Tulsa Tech Owasso. And a few things before we really get into the meat of all of this. So when I was looking at places, we've looked at a lot of different places, but the three that we really land on was Midwest City, where we've been. Oklahoma City University really approached us with a plan, and so we were looking into that for a time. After March, a lot of people got furloughed that we were working with, and that kind of fizzled out. So that may be something we have to pursue in the future, but it's not going to be an option for next year. And then Tulsa Tech Owasso. So again, I'm sorry that we're just now talking about this. Many of the people that I was talking to in March got furloughed. We didn't have estimates, and we still don't have complete perfect estimates, but we have enough, I think, that we can make a decision. We currently have soft holds in Midwest City and Owasso for the conference space. If we decide in Owasso, then I will contact hotels immediately, and we'll start getting that process going. Okay, so let's see. Right now we are planning an in-person conference, and I'm going to plan to keep the registration rate at $70 this year, no matter where we choose, just to help us plan a little bit better. Keeping all of that in mind, the 2020 CDC was a $48,000 conference. That is rounded up. It wasn't a perfect number, but and we lost $5,000 worth of that. So that, it cost us $5,000. More than what we made. Okay, so we'll break it down. Remember that CDC 2021 will be $70 for registration. Midwest City, if we choose to go there, the dates that they have available for us are February 10th and February 11th. So we'd look at a February 10th competition day and a February 11th awards day. The conference space is currently set at just under $15,000. That includes everything that we would get with that conference space. So food and beverage, and then the services there as far as AV and things like that. That also includes pipe and drape services. The theater is $6,000 with all of their fees. And then I have been looking for new promotional and production company quotes and how we can slim that down. And I have some different ranges based on quality and what they can do. And those range from $7,000 to $15,000. If we go to Owasso, the dates that they have available are February 18th and February 19th. So we'd have a February 18th competition day, February 19th awards day. The conference space is free because we are a career tech program. But however, we would pay for food and beverages and then any services that they might have to outsource. Okay, the stage would be built into the ballroom. So with all of that in mind and the additional pipe and drape and things like that, our promotional quote is around, and this is not a perfect number, is around $20,000. So we're having to offset having to build a stage and things like that with that number. The hotel rates are similar in both areas, so that wouldn't really matter. I will tell you that I am working with Owen, who works with our we're ICDC, Owen Hamilton, and they're looking at some of our contracts and have determined that we might be overpaying for venue space. And so they're looking to see how we might be able to get some of these costs even further lower rated. Okay. Okay, some more facts about these. So depending on which one we choose, Midwest City, with what I have found in savings for the production and promotional fees and the venue, we can break even. That is if we have similar attendance that we had this year. If we go down, we're gonna start losing money. Now, at Midwest City, I know that I can bring in vendors. This past year, we had 14 vendors, which raised about a little over $2,000. I have space for more vendors at Midwest City, and we have people interested. I always have to turn a few people down Not this past year, we just let anybody and everybody come. So just let me know if you have a vendor that would be interested. That is a great way for us to offset costs. Tulsa Tech Owasso, I don't have final food and beverage numbers. We could make $5,000 if we stay about the same as far as attendance. The thing that the space is really tight there. We will fit, but we're going to have to use our creative brains to make sure that everything really works there and fits. So I'm not sure about how many vendors we can have at this time. If we do have space for vendors, then you can be sure that I will be looking for vendors to be there to help offset that cost and raise more money. Okay. And then, of course, I know that everyone's wondering, what if we can't have an in-person conference? And I know that this may change some of the opinions based on, or it may affect the opinions based on location. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that the students have every opportunity that they can have. So if we need to compete virtually, then we will compete virtually. If we can have an in-person conference, we will. If we need to do a hybrid, we'll do a hybrid. I am not going to say that the students can't compete. So we're going to make sure that they have every single opportunity that we can provide them and as many events as we can. So I don't know what that looks like right now. DECA didn't release a whole lot of information. You know, and if there's some events that DECA Inc. does not release ways to do virtually, then we can brainstorm on if we want to do them just as a state. And while they wouldn't probably advance to ICDC, we'll try to make those opportunities available to our Oklahoma members. Okay, so again, you're going to get a survey link, and this is our time to discuss some of these CDC options. So in your survey pertaining to this, you'll get to vote on the location of CDC 2021. I would kind of like to know your feelings about virtual competition and ideas on that. I'll probably have a comment box on that. We also, after we discuss the more serious topic of location and dates, there are two things that I just want to know how you guys feel about them and what you want to do. And that is the 70% rule on written events. I've talked to Mr. Birch and we have no idea where that came from. So we kind of want to know your thoughts on that and if you want to keep it. And then the amount of paper that we provide for prep at CDC. Do you want more? Do you want less? Do you think it's the right amount? Because I want you all to feel comfortable with the conference we're running. So first, let's talk about location, and then we can move on to the other items.
I just feel like Midwest City is more central for everybody, so I feel like it'd be best to keep it there.
I think the same thing. Central location, plus we've done it for 2 years, and considering that this entire year is a cluster of things, having something that we already know how it can run and not having to set something up new could be a huge advantage.
I'm just going to second Christy on that I think we've done it there before. It's a well-oiled machine for the most part. So I think trying something so new this year would probably just make us all stressed, and with us not knowing. And we've already built a relationship with Midwest City. So that's also helpful, because if we've stayed overnight before, we already have those relationships with the hotels, and I think that they're going to have a little bit more understanding if we do wind up having to just completely go virtual for some reason. So I'm like, whatever, fourth vote for Midwest City.
So Paxton, with the $5,000 loss in Midwest City, was that was that about the same the year before that?
No, so the year before, we lost $800, but that was because we had the $10,000 from Atlanta in that donation. So that helped offset the cost. So this year we did our very best to bring in more vendors. We cut some other costs to try to get that loss as low as possible, knowing that we were probably going to have a loss. And so would I have loved it to be less of a loss than 5,000? Of course. But I think we cut a lot of costs. We still provided a really quality conference. And then that's when the conversation started with about the production companies and with Rose State, what could they do in-house? What are we doing that maybe we don't need? Also talking to Owen Hamilton and his team, and they're reviewing our contracts to see where are we overpaying, where can we change some of these costs, things like that, where can we consolidate. So I'm confident if we keep, that's the tricky part about this year, is that we don't know what membership will look like for CDC and registration. But if we can keep it similar, which is what I base my numbers off of, then we can break even at Midwest City this year.
Are there any other places other than those two that are around the state or somewhere central? I know Moore Norman has a great Pennsylvania campus.
So because we need something so big, because we do have so many different competitions, and if we don't want to change the schedule of our conference, where it's more days or that kind of thing, if we want it to still be a one full day of competition, we have to have a fairly large space. And I know we already have some complaints about noise and things like that in our current location with the pipe and drape. So we do need a fairly large space. The Reed Conference Center, from my knowledge, and talking with some of the planners here at the agency, is that the Reed Conference Center is the lowest cost hotel and conference center. So Factor went in, and Brian Farrell there, he's been kind of helping me talk to some different conference centers. I haven't found anything lower than the Sheraton. We also need something, that is large. We were also in talks with Oklahoma City University. They were willing to give us several different buildings. We were going to be able to use the big auditorium, but again, that kind of fizzled through when people were sent home to work and furloughed and things like that. So if it's something that we do want to pursue, I pick up those talks right back when everything gets back a little bit to what we used to know. But right now, the two that are on the table with holds are Midwest City and Owasso.
I mean, if it's between those two, I'm like the others with Midwest City. I just need to, I'd love to see it if we could break even, find a way to generate more revenue, or if it's $5 more a person. I mean, we're getting a free lunch. Mm-hmm. Just something to try to recoup some costs and get at least where we can break even. That would be good. I hate to see DECA with all the fees that we pay just lose money. So. Right.
And my hesitation, I will not raise registration costs unless I absolutely have to this year. I don't think that that's right by any means. So, my thoughts on any conference this year is that if we break even, then that's good for this year and we're going to be okay. And then, next year we move forward and try to make some of that money back up. So I am fine if everyone wants to raise registration next year, we can do that. That kind of thing. I was hesitant to even look at that. But with our $70 that we've been paying and the lowered production costs and some consolidation of things, I really do think that if we can hold registration steady at Midwest City and maybe we can get rid of some things if we don't, that we can break even.
How many schools, and I'm not asking you for names or anything at all, don't send kids to compete at state?
Just a second. I know typically people will bring, even if they're smaller schools, they'll bring at least a few people. I'm trying to think, sometimes like a new advisor might attend by themselves, but let me pull up our CDC registration numbers from last year, and I'm not gonna give out names, so don't worry, don't stress. Let's see.
And how many, do you have off the top of your head, do you know how many competitors we had last year?
So I don't know how many competitors, I can't break it down as far as who competed or who just kind of attended or that kind of thing. We had 581 people register last year. Okay. And I'm about to pull a report. Maybe I can break it down by, it's been a while since I've been in the system. Break it down by type.
I know, isn't it weird having to get your brain back in the mode? Yeah.
It is. Let's see. So it looks like we had just about every chapter attend, and I don't see anybody with even just one attendee. So it looks like most of our chapters are bringing people. And I know, that's the great thing about Oklahoma DECA is that everyone really pitches in and makes the best of everything. So you know, we can probably all bring a little bit more, and that would be awesome. But, you know, I also understand, you know, there's costs associated with that, and it's sometimes hard to get students to a conference, to pay the registration fee, hotels, travel, all of that. There's a lot that goes into it.
Well, what I'm afraid of though is this year being virtual, it's going to be harder to get kids engaged in competition because you have to start early. And if we end up doing this virtual thing for a whole semester, that's going to put us and other schools way behind on getting kids to commit. So I'm afraid our numbers could be lower. And if we commit to a Reed Center where we already lost 5,000, we're going to lose even more.
I agree, Jen.
The whole nation's going to be like this. I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
it's going to be really hard to get people that, I mean, the kids that have been before, they're in. I mean, you don't have to do a lot for that, but you're trying to get students who don't even know what DECA is about, and then you're trying to get them. I mean, I think like Christy was saying, this is kind of going to be a wash year. It's going to, I don't think we can have very high expectations.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Oh, sorry, Liz. Paxton, isn't there, like, if we have this, we're going to have a general idea closer to time if we're still virtual. What kind of deadline do you have with like the Reed Center to say, hey, if we go virtual, we don't need to do it? Won't there be are they going to be flexible, a little more flexible than normal based on the situation?
I do think so, completely, because they were delighted that I even asked for a quote. They thought that we were going to leave last year. So they were delighted that I asked for a quote. I think that we have a relationship built there, even with me asking for them to cut costs. You know, I'm working with Steve Sharp directly at the theater, and he's been really understanding about everything that I've asked and really understanding of our situation. And I've just been completely transparent with them. I mean, we fit there, it works, but we need lower costs. And so I think especially this year, people are being really understanding. Whichever one we choose as well, we may be able to go back, particularly with Midwest City, and renegotiate some of our hotel costs, because they do want people to be there, and they do, some of them are willing to lower costs. So we may even have some additional savings once we choose a location and I'm able to go and renegotiate hotel contracts and things like that.
I just can't imagine that if we say we're going to do this and then everybody's virtual, that the Reed Center would say, too bad, you still have to pay us everything when everybody's virtual. Because I think that they would be, that's what you said is answered that, but that's kind of what my thought was, is surely there's going to be a little more grace, a little more flexibility when it comes to that, because who else are they probably going to have come there? Probably nobody's doing conferences really if that happens.
Right. And, something that, because we are kind of return customers and they would like to see us continue to be return customers, they may be able to, if they don't, I can't imagine them not just letting us cancel, especially for this situation. If everyone else is canceling and we need to cancel and that kind of thing. If that's not the case, they may not charge us a fee if we are able to move it to the next year or something like that. And obviously that's not ideal, it's just canceling, but I feel like there would be some flexibility with them, with us being return customers. So, and as an organization, if we lose $5,000 on this conference, we're completely fine. I just don't, as the state advisor, want to continue to hold conferences where we continue to lose money. I think this year is definitely an exception. My goal this year is to maintain, and knowing that we probably will have a loss somewhere. We are going to be fine if we do lose some money, but again, just being responsible with the students' money and just DECA's money as a whole, I don't want to continue to hold conferences where we're, not having an attendance that meets our financial obligations. Okay, any other questions or thoughts on that? Again, you'll get your survey link when I send out the presentation link today. Okay, well, if you do have anything else that you want to add, feel free. I definitely want this to be a discussion that we can all have, so that everyone can hear all the points before voting and all of that, and so we can make the best decision for Oklahoma DECA. Okay, so on a lighter topic, the 70% rule on written events. So this is something I learned about last year, and we followed it last year because it was kind of set, and that is if the student doesn't submit 70% of their written event, that it is disqualified. So how do you all feel about that? Do you want to keep it? That kind of thing. It's specific to us. I don't know where it's written that we need to do it. It's not in our bylaws. What are your thoughts on the 70% rule?
I know you said something, you talked to Mark and he couldn't remember. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I talked to Mark and he said he inherited it. So he wasn't sure where it came from. He also couldn't find documentation when he was state advisor of where it came from. So
I can't remember exactly. I know I remember discussing it, being part of a discussion about it. The reason that it became a discussion was that there were certain written events in which there were only 2 or 3 entries. Mm-hmm. Some of those entries were not even 70% of the requirement. But when you go to CDC, they were still placing because there was only 2 or 3 entries. And then being able to qualify for ICDC, really not representing Oklahoma DECA very well. And that's where that discussion came from what I remember being told during the year that it was kind of implemented. So that was kind of part of the reason, trying to up the standards a little bit, because it may have been before Mark, but I remember being told by the state advisor that they were getting some entries that were really, really poor, and they didn't feel comfortable sending those on to ICDC representing Oklahoma DECA. So that was kind of one of the reasons behind it that I can remember being told.
That's exactly right. And I don't know if we based it on nationals or something else, but we were getting papers that were not even half.
Okay. So, and my main concern, I don't care at all that we are sending quality to ICDC. That's my goal. This isn't quality. I don't want to send a 2-page paper as my first place winner if it's garbage. So my concern with that was that some new advisors had no idea. I didn't know where to look for it, that kind of thing. And so where can we put it? Where would be the best place for us to tell you this? Obviously, it's not going to be in your DECA guide where you get most of your competition information. So we need something so that everyone's on the same page, so that it is a level playing field at CDC. And they know that if they don't submit a paper that meets that 70% requirement, it's not even getting looked at.
I was pretty sure there was something written last year. Maybe I don't remember correctly.
When
you go in to register, I'm sorry?
I think I sent out an email about it last year.
Okay. I thought when you went in to actually register that it said something in the written events section that you have to have, and I may be wrong. I'm just, maybe it was the email.
On our website. I did add it to the Oklahoma DECA website. But
I think, sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. My main concern is that if a new advisor gets their advisor box from DECA and they think that all of their materials for competition are in their DECA guide, but that's not there, what would be the best way that we can kind of help all of the advisors be in the know about the 70% rule and the little things that are Oklahoma specific? And I'm fine to produce something. I'm fine to put it on the website. I just want to be as transparent as possible so that a new advisor doesn't have a student submit a project that gets disqualified and they just didn't know where to look.
I will say that when you do sign in and register, that's where it was listed. But it was like after you're already submitting your kids, like you're in that moment to submit their products. And then it's like, oh, if you're new, most of us know, but if you were new, you're like, what is this? I didn't realize. And then people just uploaded them. And it could be like 1 page off. And I know I'm not really for or against it either, but I do think there are some quality winners that win at ICDC even, and they don't have that 70% rule. They might have, 6 pages in a 10-page event instead of 7. And I hate to tell my kids, like, you need to add in little, like enough verbiage to make it longer, where then it kind of becomes run on and they're saying the same thing. But I mean, most quality events are probably going to meet the criteria either way. I don't know if we want to say, like, as an advisor, we need to check all of our stuff and make sure our kids aren't turning in 2 pages. Like, if my kid brought me a 2-page out of 10-page event, I'd be like, sorry, you've got to go work on this. Like, this isn't enough. But so it might maybe need to fall on our, like, responsibility to do, but maybe, I don't know. That's just what people can decide. But I don't know if we want to keep 70% or not. That's something to think about.
But at nationals, they don't even get a chance to read the book.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. It's literally, what does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the first page.
And so if they have an outstanding, like, dynamic presentation, that might get them through, as long as they can look through and say, well, they wrote everything and they did what they're supposed to, or whatever. And then here we are. We've taken out a kid that's dynamic and can present, but they only wrote 6 out of 10 pages because they didn't meet that criteria. So I feel like we should just keep it in line with what nationals does, because I feel like otherwise we're going to have to make some sort of a bylaw type, this is our Oklahoma rules, that aren't the same as nationals. But other people might not want to do that. Like, I don't really know.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, like with what Brandy's saying. I just think that I don't think there's anything wrong with us requiring to kind of go above and beyond. It's true, maybe at nationals, maybe it doesn't matter to that level, but as this being their opportunity to create something and to kind of go above and beyond that, I just think, and I think maybe I'm basing that off of some of the ones I've seen in the past are really, really bad. And I know that they can just make stuff up, like Brandy was saying, like, just to have to make it up to get to the 7 pages. That's not always a good thing either. It's just that I think if we just leave it open, you do have people submitting, going to present and to participate, but really, if they're only doing 2 or 3 pages, they're really not interested in doing a good job in the first place. So that's the only reason that I kind of like it. I'm not like hardcore, like we have to do it. I just don't think it's a bad thing to have a minimum to really push them to do that. But I understand the difference between nationals, like having the bylaw or something different for us than there is for National DECA. I mean, I get that difference. I just don't know if there's anything wrong with making them push a little more.
Could maybe we make it like a 50%? Half, that's 10 pages on a 20-page thing and 5 pages on a 10-page one. I've just seen some that I'm like, and I think they've changed some of the events since they were out. But I will be honest, like, whenever I do a lot of written events, and whenever I was newer or I was starting out those written events, I've sent in some, and then I've looked at them in my closet now, and I'm like, what is this? Like, because I didn't have time to read them all. So I think, but that's my fault. I sent it and they didn't place, and I wasn't shocked, especially after I looked it over, so, so I don't know. Like, I agree. Like, I think I want my kids to be quality best that they can do either way, and I'm going to push them. But I would hate for someone to get docked because they didn't know this rule. So we have to either make it really obvious where that can be found everywhere, or not have it at all.
And I think we would be on a slippery slope if we got to be careful, because kind of like Brandy and Christy are kind of saying, I'm in the middle there, where someone may only write 5 of the 10, but it's solid, versus 5 of a 10 and it's garbage. And so that's going to be hard. But at the same time, like Christy was saying, it is good to push your kids as far as what they can do. You don't want someone thinking that they could do 2 pages and actually win. We don't want them to have that type of mentality in the first place. But kind of like what Brandy says, we really got to be careful with where we put that at, because every kid writes differently and it's so subjective. So that's hard.
And I think what Marie's saying too, when you have someone who writes 2 pages and there's 2 entries in that event, I don't think they deserve to get first or second when they did very, very minimal work, even if they have a fantastic presentation, because it's incomplete work. And I know there is a slippery slope, and it's like, well, who says it's really incomplete because there isn't a minimum? And I get that. But I also think it's sending a little bit of a message of, hey, if you happen to get in an event that doesn't have a lot of people, you don't have to do much, and you're going to be able to still get a placing. So that's one of the sides that I also see. For me personally, I won't let a kid submit anything if it's not 70% of my kids, but that's what I do. So I get that it can be hard to make sure it's consistent. I just don't know that we want to, I feel having a problem. I have a problem with rewarding, I guess is the way to say it, a kid who may write very, very, very little, and get into an event that doesn't have very many people, and they get that placing when somebody else has worked really hard in another event, and it was just based on the numbers of entries. If that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, completely. And with us being so small, I mean, the likelihood of there being, one or two people in an event is pretty high from year to year. So, and I'm not against requiring them to do more and having something. My main concern is, one, making sure that it is a percent that you all are comfortable with. And then two, that we're being completely transparent to all of our advisors that this is an expectation, and that we're putting it somewhere where it's completely visible, that our new advisors aren't blindsided by it, that kind of thing. Because the last thing I want is for a student to write those 5 pages and their quality, that's what they gave. It was, the best work. The advisor had no idea. And then that student's work is disqualified because we didn't have a way to give it to them, and they didn't know about it and that kind of thing. So above all, I want to be transparent and make sure that we're doing the very best for every school, whether they have a new advisor or not.
Yeah, I kind of like the 70% rule. It makes sense. I mean, the ones you can order online, if you look at the entire packet, I don't know if I've ever seen one that's been under 70% of the national winners. I just think if you really get into each section and you start getting in depth with quality content, you should be deducting pages because you've gone over your 10 or 20 page maximum. It just seems like that just makes more sense. If we go 50%, I just don't see that that's going to be a quality. I mean, it could be, obviously, but it just seems like 70 is a good number. And it actually allows me to advise the kids to do 70%. If they're at 50 and I look at it and go, okay, you need to add some more, even pictures or graphics or something that's going to make it stand out that much more. It's not that hard to get up to 70%. So that's kind of my opinion on it.
I just want to say something to what Jamie just said, as far as getting the written books. You're talking about new advisors and not knowing stuff. And, well, we're virtual, but if we're not virtual or they're able to see their kids, they can give them examples of what something looks like to use it as, here is what standard you want to get to. Even if you're brand new, you could look at written events from the past and go, this is pretty much the footprint for you for what is expected. You know how when we were, like, for example, when we were in class, sometimes, you'll have a kid, I'll say, okay, I want a summary on something, and someone does, 5 sentences, which is a summary, and someone gives me 1 sentence. And I almost want to go, oh no, you give me this much, I give you this much, and bring up their standard. Without having the kids' names on it, you can kind of put it up and say, here are some examples of what I'm looking for and where I want you to be. So maybe perhaps those new advisors, and you find out who they are, and they have written events, and work a little closer with them to say, here's what a standard looks like when it comes to a written event. When they're giving that to their kids have something to look at to go, okay, this is where I'm going to kind of need to meet. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, completely. And so I think what I'll put on the survey is, if you're in favor of the 70% rule or not, I'll leave you a comment box where you can, if you're not, or if you are, you can provide additional comments or ideas. And then, the best, I can put it on the website, I can blast it through emails, I'll do my part to make sure that it is sent out. That's what I did last year after I found out about it. My other idea potentially is maybe to generate an Oklahoma DECA guide appendix so that it's specific to what Oklahoma DECA does for competitions. It tells them how many pieces of paper we're going to provide for prep. It tells them what we expect for written events. Maybe it has some links on it. Maybe it has specific things that we do for competitions that maybe DECA doesn't do and not in the DECA guide. And that would be something that, I can email out, I can put on the website, in typical years, we could pass it out at summer conference, that kind of thing. So I'm open to whatever. I just want to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible and that a student's product doesn't get disqualified just simply because their advisor didn't read an email or check the website. So, if there's no more on that, I'll add it to the survey with a comment box and all of that, and we can go from there. And then the second thing, so I didn't realize that our paper was determined kind of by state until I talked to Josh and went to Cam and we talked about it there too. So I want to know, do you think we're giving the right amount of paper at state? I want to make sure that we're making sure that it's even across all competitions for all competitors, all of that. I found out for ICDC, it's unlimited. So what do you all want as a state?
Well, it should match ICDC, which is unlimited.
Okay.
There's no reason to limit it anyway.
No, and this year I brought so much paper that I think my staff thought I was crazy. Kept loading boxes of paper onto the pallet. So I'm fine with that. If we have to buy a couple more boxes of paper so that our students feel comfortable and are prepared for ICDC, I'm good with that. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the survey just so that you all get to voice your opinion individually. But yeah, if there's no discussion about that, then that's completely fine.
I mean, my kids really like to use note cards, so it'd be nice if we had paper and note cards available depending on what the school is with. So
I've never been to an ICDC yet because of everything that's been going on. So I've actually never been to an in-person DECA conference yet due to being pregnant and the pandemic and all of that. So I've been to some virtual, but do they allow note cards at ICDC? Okay, so I can add that to the survey and we can vote on it. But I mean, my personal preference, and I'm going to go with what you guys want, but my personal preference would be to mirror what they do at ICDC so that we can prep them for ICDC and they're the most prepared.
Yeah, it's just paper at ICDC, like 8.5 by 11.
And I know, they talked about how they can tear them apart to create business cards, or some of them make name tints, and everyone has their own strategy. And I'm completely fine with providing as much paper as you need to. And if you make your own note cards, that's fine, however we want to do it.
And with what Jamie said, I don't disagree with that. I think it'd be great to have note cards, but I wouldn't want any of our kids to be kind of planning when they get to ICDC that I'm going to have a note card that I can create, and then I'll have my paper, and kind of set them up to be a little bit, because they get a little stressed when they get there, and then all of a sudden like, oh wait, I don't get a note card. So I would love to have note cards too, like Jamie said. I just think we should be consistent and only do the paper based on what ICDC does, so that kids aren't expecting something or kind of in their mind thinking what they could do in a situation and then not have that resource.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Okay, well, I'll add, with all of these questions, I'll add a comment box so you can feel free to, send whatever. And if there's enough of them where I need to send out another survey and ask, okay, do we need to give out note cards? I'll do that. So I'll be completely transparent about all of those choices. So thank you guys for your discussion on those items. I'll send out the survey. Is there anything else about CDC that you guys would like to discuss or have questions about before we move on? Christy?
Sorry, I was afraid I wouldn't get my button clicked before you moved on. Will you, once you get a little more information, do you think you'll have a kind of a time frame that you'll be able to give us that says we have to decide by this time if we're going to end up being able to do in person or virtual once you talk more with like Reed Center or whatever?
What I'm going to do is try to make a decision by November, unless we have to make one earlier. So I know DECA has not given us a time frame, and all of the association advisors asked for one at CAM. It got a little heated. DECA did not want to give us one. All they could tell us was that they're planning for both. So what I will say is that I know BPA is going to make their decision about nationals in December. So I figure, after we get through fall conference, I'm gonna, we'll start seeing where schools are at, seeing what's going to be happening. You know, depending on where we choose to be, we'll determine our date a little bit, you know, a little bit of wiggle room, a week's worth, that kind of thing, and we'll figure it out. And then I have to look at where we are, their rules, that kind of thing. So I'm going to try to make a decision by November so that we can either plan a quality hybrid or quality in person or quality virtual. And like I said, even if DECA doesn't offer, say they choose not to offer role plays virtually, we will find a way to offer role plays virtually. So I know there's another state that writes their own role plays. If we write our own role plays, or if we need to purchase those that they write, I'm going to try to provide every opportunity that we can for our members. Even if they don't get to advance to ICDC through that, we'll make sure that they can compete in what they want to compete in. So, and I'll keep you guys updated. You know, we'll communicate all the time about it. Okay, other questions? Okay, so another thing that came up from Josh's presentation, if you haven't had a chance to look at that, I encourage you to go to the OK My YouTube channel and find Josh Schenkel's presentation about competitive events, role plays, written events, all of that. It was quality information. And he did bring up something that they do in Texas, and they have online practice tests. So I asked him, how do you get online practice tests? And we are going to be getting those for you this year. I'm in communication with DLG to get that set up, and I'll let you guys know when that is ready to go so that you have practice tests that you can give your students for CDC.
I know DECA on their Shop DECA website has the 2019 association role plays and tests that go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if DECA is going to release what they were going to use at state or were going to use at ICDC for us to practice with for this past school year?
So ICDC maybe not, because they may be reusing them.
Okay.
State, they'd already sent them all out, so that's, I mean, they're already sent out, already used, that kind of thing. So, but ICDC, it depends. I mean, they're probably going to dip into that a little bit, I think. Recycle some of those quality things they already had done. Okay, so we got just a little bit of information at CAM about ICDC. All of the advisors wanted more. They gave us just a little bit. We heard from the spokesperson from the Anaheim Chamber. So they're still planning very much for an in-person conference. However, we cannot contract with hotels. We do not have rates for the hotels. We cannot do our hotel lottery because we're not allowed to be there yet. So per California rules. So when I get all that information, I will share it with you. But right now, we're scheduled to go to Anaheim, April 24th through 27th. The range of hotels, like I said, I don't know where we're going to be, but our range for hotels is $195 to $254, depending on what hotel we get. Remember that Anaheim is not tax exempt. The tax is 15% plus a 2% TID. And that's all I know about hotels. We will be following the lottery that we were from this past ICDC, and I believe we were second, I think. So once that rolls out, I will be really fast to choose our hotels and all of that. But we haven't even got to preview what our hotels will be or what our options are, anything like that. So that's the range right now. DECA is planning a night at Universal Studios. So that's something. And the city of Anaheim is keeping DECA informed. That's what we were told. So as I know more from DECA, I will let you know. I will tell you that everything that DECA has produced virtually has been phenomenal. However, they have been a little bit slow as an organization to release the information when it's being promoted, when it's being canceled, all of that. So I will update you as soon as I know from them, but it's as slow on this end as it is getting to you. So I'm sorry for that. I wish it was a little bit faster. I wish that we had a deadline of when they might make a decision about ICDC so we could plan. But all I can tell you is I'll keep you as informed as I am. They did assure us that we would have a conference, whether it be virtual or in person. They're working with several systems. They haven't decided on a virtual conference system yet. So that's why they didn't want to share that with us, but they are working on making sure that we can compete in some way. And I know I've had this question a couple of times. What about our competitive event allocations? We went up this year. What's going on with social distancing? Is it going to be lowered? What they told us on this was they're not going to make a decision until they know which states cannot travel at all. So say that one state couldn't travel, that may allow allocations to go up or down, but they're not going to make a big decision on that until they know which states can and cannot attend if they have an on-site competition. So I'm sorry, but I will keep you updated. Okay, so a few DECA conferences that are coming up, and again, everything that they've produced virtually has been phenomenal. They're doing a really great job. Beforehand, you get a kind of conference prep kit in the mail. I know ELS was really fun. CAM, they sent me some stuff. So it's all been really great. They still have all their vendors and sponsors and things like that. DECA is partnering with MBA Research to do DECA Amped through October 16th through October 18th. So if you'd like to attend that, they are helping do that with MBA Conclave. And that information is on DECA's website. And then while Power Trip has been canceled, we voted at CAM to the Southern region to join the North Atlantic region to do it virtually. So you'll be getting more information about that as it's produced and that kind of thing from DECA. So know that we will have some sort of a virtual Power Trip, and we'll be partnering with the North Atlantic region. I don't know rates, I don't know dates, anything like that. We just decided last week on Friday that we'd be doing this. So as I get more information about that, I'll let you all know. Does anyone who's attended some of the virtual conferences or Power Trip want to speak to this?
I can speak to it. This is Brandy at Putnam City. And so I did do the advisor workshop this summer that they already offered. And I felt like it was a lot of great information. There's a couple that I had to choose between, so I'm going to go back in and actually watch those as well. As far as like, because I have a store here, like being able to still teach that, I didn't get to watch that one. The one with the DECA National Officer team was really good to see the kids running the show. And so if you have time to go back in, I think you could still get in and watch everything. As far as Power Trip, I've been able to go to 2 Power Trips. And I talked to Paxton about this a little bit. So honestly, this is the best conference I go to that I feel like I actually get a lot of information. I know a lot of us went to the Austin one because it was driving distance. And then this last year, Jamie Wilson and I were both at the DC Power Trip. And even my students get really engaged and really excited. Every year I say, look, we're going to go, or every time I've gone, let's just go and see what they're like. And if it's horrible, then we'll leave and we'll go sightseeing. Don't tell. But I mean, I want them to have a good time. But we stay for almost everything that they offer, because it's real. Usually the kids I'm taking are kids who want to compete and they want to travel, but they want to compete and they want to learn about what they can do to better themselves. And I hope that's where I actually saw Josh's presentation this last year and envisioned him to Paxton, because as a DECA advisor, this is my 9th year, and I never knew how much the tests correlated with MBA research and all of that. And I was like sitting there with Jamie, like, did you know this? Like, what is this all about? Like, how is this something that I am just so clueless about? So I felt that helped my kids do a lot better this year, just being able to explain how the test is made and what they need to go in and actually study. So everything I've gone to, like the way I had my kids write their events this year, the way I had them do their presentations this year, all changed because of what I learned at Power Trip just this last year. So I really hope that that they do. I mean, we are going to have this, and I hope that I'm able to get all my kids to go and attend. It's going to be an additional cost, but it costs my kids like $900 to go last year. So most of these conferences are costing about $40 to $50. And like Paxton said, they're coming with so much swag. When we took them to the Power Trip, they all got a Sherpa. Like I was in super shock when I went down there to get their little gift. And usually it's something really small, like a bag. And I'm walking back like this crazy person with all these Sherpas to my students. So they definitely don't make it slim on what they send us. And they want to make it something that the kids really enjoy and love. And my students always like the swag that they get. So I don't know. That's just my take on it. I think hopefully you guys will want to sign up and go to those events too. Our kids aren't going to be spending the money they're used to spending like on lunch and on, all the extra t-shirts in our school that we sell and all those types of things. So it is going to cost money that they're not used to spending, but they're going to be saving a little bit of money if they're virtual like my school is. So that's a little, hopefully they'll be able to afford it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. The power trips are really a lot of fun. I've been to Washington, D.C., I think, for 3 different ones, and then went to Austin for that one, and Philadelphia for another one. And you just learn so much. The kids come back a little bit different. They're more dedicated. They're more excited about what goes on. And the kids that don't go are really kind of sad that they didn't go. But it's just trips that you learn things that you didn't think you'd learn, like what Brandy said about the competition. When we first heard him, Josh, last year at the power trip, it's like bells started going off in my head on the competition because I understood it. And I think I actually screwed my kids up by changing the way they were learning because they weren't quite used to any of that yet. So, but that was a good eye opener, at least to see that. And the people that put on the power trip seem to direct it towards the kids in a way that's just amazing. The kids really, really feel like they're engaged. So, if it's cheaper to do it, I think we're in for the power trip stuff just because you learn so much and you get so much out of it. It's definitely worth it. And I'd recommend a lot of people, if you can get your kids to do it, or if your chapter can afford to spend a little bit of money, or maybe split it with them and let them learn, I think that would definitely benefit the kids.
So, and just as we've talked about with some of the other conferences, this may be a way to get your kids amped up about conference and competition and things like that in a virtual setting. DECA has done a really quality job of providing virtual conferences for the students, and every registration that I've seen has been in a range of $30 to $50, somewhere in there, and they're getting a lot for their money. So I do encourage that. I mean, you don't have plane tickets, you don't have hotel costs, additional things like that. So we may be able to have students attend Power Trip that have never thought about attending Power Trip before. So a little plug there, and I'll let you guys know when I know about more of that. I know DECA is doing all of the programming for it, and I will keep you guys updated. Okay, so miscellaneous updates. The biggest thing that I want to make sure you guys know is that state officer applications this year are going to be due on December 1st. So typically I have them due after Christmas, but I'm going to try to move this year to avoid some stress around conference season. So this way, if you have an officer that wants to run, or a candidate that wants to run be an officer, they can get it out of the way, and then they can focus on CDC, and you can focus on CDC, and I can focus on CDC at my office. So it kind of is going to benefit everyone. It is a little bit earlier, and it's going to be a change. Applications for this next year will be available around FLC, and around that time frame is when we'll release those new applications for the year. So we'll have about 2 months to kind of work through those. Look at those. The old one is on the website. I'm not planning on making a ton of changes. So if they did want to look at that to see what they need to be collecting, or if they want to prepare, the old one's still on the website, the form's on the website, but the newest version will be released around FLC. So this way we can have officer screening all finished before winter break. So we can come back and just focus on CDC. I am going to add a new competition at a state level. This will obviously not be something that they can advance to ICDC with, but we'll make sure that they have some really awesome rewards for doing this, and we make sure that they have some recognition. And that new competition is going to be to create an Oklahoma DECA promotional video. So something a little bit different. It's something that we could use. I know I get asked all the time if we have something that's Oklahoma specific. DECA releases their national membership video. But if we could promote what our students can do and our local chapters, I think this is kind of a win-win for everyone. So it's something that we'll try this year and try to get some really great prizes. And whether we're on-site or virtual, we can roll this out. So, and I'll have information available with that when we send out information about the rest of the CDC stuff. Okay, and then I've made a few minor changes to the Oklahoma DECA website. I have categorized the Advisor Quick Links page into state resources, DECA Inc. resources, and then presentations. So that's a little bit more organized now. And then you'll also see a virtual DECA tab on that website. And that's going to be everything that's kind of focused on this year. So if it's a Zoom background, or a link to a presentation, or a virtual scavenger hunt, or tips for virtual meetings, there's resources for students, there's resources for you as advisors, and then there's just some fun stuff as well. So that's something to look for this year. And if we need it next year, we'll use it next year, but it's kind of focused specifically for our weird year. I was told that your local advisor boxes will be mailed like normal to your school addresses. So if you are someone who's teaching virtually and you're not at your school all the time, be looking for that. Your DECA guide will be in those. They said they're sending some posters and things like that that are new this year. So be on the lookout for that. If you are not registered, you're new and you need to get registered as an advisor, let me know so we can make sure you get your box so you can start the year. You all probably know this. You can request chapter logos from DECA and they can create one for you. If you want that option, send me an email and I'll forward it to the people who can make it. And they'll create like an official chapter logo for your school. And then they're also revamping the DECA Inc. mentoring program, Mentor Mentee Handbook. And so as that is released and available, I'll make sure that you all have access to that. Questions about any of that? Okay. Okay, so we're almost done. I know it says that's not all, but we're almost done. I just want to highlight some of the things that we are providing for you from Oklahoma DECA that are really going to try to make your membership dollars stretch and be an opportunity and assistance for you in this virtual kind of hybrid year. So the first thing, a virtual chapter visit. If you want a state officer or myself to come visit your chapter, to talk about recruitment, to do an installation, you know, an activity, a Q&A, let me know. We also have a form on the website so you can fill that out, or if you just want to kind of talk to me about what you need, then I can help you get that set up. There, I mean, everyone knows how to do virtual now, so there's no reason that our officers couldn't visit all corners of the state this year virtually. So you can have one officer, several officers, let me know what you're kind of looking for, and we can make sure that they're interacting with your members. Chapter planning. So I know that all of you have a different chapter. You all have different goals. Your students like to do different things and your chapters can thrive in different ways. So this is something I'm committing to doing this year, is that if you need some special one-on-one help, talk to me and I can figure out and help you figure out some actionable items where we can create a list of things that you can do to help your chapters be successful this year. So if your chapter doesn't thrive on competition or fundraising, then maybe we find, you know, some community service ways that you can thrive through DECA or things like that. So let me know if you need that help, or if you know an advisor who might need that assistance, let them know. I'm happy to do that. And so that we can make sure that every Oklahoma DECA chapter is being the very best chapter that they can be. Virtual office hours are something new that I'm going to offer to all of you this year. And this can be a time where you ask me questions that you have that are easier to just ask over Zoom than in an email. It could also be a time where if you and another advisor want to meet up, I can put you in a breakout room and you guys can just discuss and chat about things that are going on with your different schools and that kind of thing. It's not required by any means, and it will be every Wednesday from 3:45 to 4:45, unless there's a holiday or a conference. So every Wednesday I'll turn on the Zoom and you guys can be there or not. So it's available to you. We are sharing that with BPA just because I don't know every week that we would just have a ton of people. So it's just very casual. Come with your questions or discussion items. Okay, before we do end, I did want to congratulate all of you who participated in the DECA advisor training. It was free and it is posted now. We have a link for it on our Oklahoma DECA website if you want to view that training. But the people who participated while it was going on, we have Andrea Kerr, Brandy Reedus, Edwina Owen, Jana Cox, Carrie Miller, Marie Page, Susan Glidden, Tammy Graves, and David Mackin. So if you participated in that, thank you for taking that step. And there's more. If you didn't get to participate, it is on the website link there where you can view all of those. Okay, our officers are very committed to social media this year. So if you want to follow us, I encourage you to do so. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also on our websites where I post everything. And that is it. I am so sorry that this went so long. I am here if you guys have questions, but if you are ready to hop off, I understand. And that is all I have for you today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys who were here. I appreciate it. If anyone asks, I'll post the link on the website and YouTube, and I'll send out an email. And just let me know how I can help you this year.
Hey, Paxton, are you still there?
I am.
Are you going to send me anything for Monday Madness? I know you've been a little busy.
No, I don't have anything today.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Those were good. Those were
thanks.
good. Bye.
Bye, Kim.